The parable of the light under the bushel, which follows the sower, does not have the Taurian imagery of growth and productivity, except in rather an oblique sense. But it is related to Taurus nevertheless, because in addition to its association with the earth and with agriculture, Taurus has always considered by the ancients to be connected with light. For instance, Venus rules Taurus, and Venus is phosphorus. She is the bright morning star, and she's one of the brightest orbs. In fact, she's the third brightest orb in the sky. That's one pointer to the fact that it's dealing with Taurus. Another one is the principal star of the Hyades group, situated in the eye of the bull, was called by Ptolemy Lampadias. That would be lamp, Lampadias, the torch. So you see, Jesus will be talking about light. Don't hide your light, show your light. Venus, the ruler of Taurus and the most brilliant sight in the evening and morning sky after the moon, was called by the Greeks Phos. Phos meaning light. And by the Romans, Lucifer, the light bearer. So no wonder chapter 4 deals with light. To the ancient occultists, Venus was the planet of inner light, illumination. Aristophanes called it Pleias Eptesteros, the seven-starred Pleiades. So we're talking about the Pleiades now. Although he said that one of them is Panaphanes, all invisible. One of the stars of the Pleiades is hidden according to the myth. The Pleiades were the 7 daughters of Atlas, who had been changed into stars by Pleione. 6 of them had been married to gods, but the 7th, Merope, had married a mortal. So her light was dim and rarely seen, all of which strikingly reflects the parable of the lamp in Mark 7:21-22. Now take note, this is very interesting because we're talking about the 7 sisters here, the Pleiades. Okay? Now, you ever notice that? Subaru, that means the Pleiades, the 7 sisters. Now, when you look up at the Pleiades, they're magnificent. They look exquisite, like a jewel in the sky, and they correspond to the pineal gland, okay? Because here they are in Taurus, Pleiades. They're supposed to be more up toward here, actually, these around this area here, because Taurus rules the lower part of the head. But you will only notice 6. There are not 7, because one of them has had their lights dimmed. So let's notice what Mark chapter 4:21 has to say, shall we? He said to them, "Do you bring a lamp? Do you bring in a lamp to put it under a bowl or a bed? Instead, don't you put it on its stand? For whatever is hidden is meant to be disclosed." And he uses the word here, phanerothe, in Greek. And whatever is concealed is meant to be brought out into the open, phaneron. If anyone has ears to hear, let them hear. Well, as I just read before about Aristophanes, he called one of those stars the exact same word that Mark uses for the dimming of the light, which is Phanophanes. So Aristophanes called this star Phanophanes, the all-invisible. Interesting that Mark should use the exact same word for the dim star in the Pleiades. Still on the Taurus sign, we need to focus our attention on that. Of course, agricultural imagery and the parable of light. Oh, thanks, George. Yeah, beautiful. That'll help that. Good stuff. This is also in Mark, okay? He also said, "This is what the kingdom of God is like. A man scatters seed on the ground, night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up. The seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. All by itself the soil produces grain, first the stalk, then the head, then the full kernel in the head. As soon as the grain is ripe, he puts the sickle to it, because the harvest has come." Again he said, "What shall we say the kingdom of God is like? Or what parable shall we use to describe it? It is like a mustard seed, which is the smallest of the seeds on earth. Yet when planted, it grows and becomes the largest of all garden plants, with such branches that the birds can perch in the shade." So notice the theme there of agricultural imagery, parables of growth, and these are the themes of the fourth chapter of Mark. Right on cue with Aries the first, Taurus the second. And it gets better. Mark 4:10-12. When he was done, the 12 and the others around him asked him about the parables. He told them, "The secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those on the outside everything is said in parables, so that they may be ever seeing but never perceiving, and ever hearing but never understanding. Otherwise they might turn and be forgiven." How about Gemini? All right, so we come to Gemini. We've done Aries, Taurus, and now Gemini, the twins. What themes of Gemini do we have in the Bible in the 4th to 6th chapter of Mark? Themes of duality, man with a legion, the two-ness of Geminis, Geminians, the flow of blood and the cure of Jairus' daughter, the apostles sent out in twos, Herod's vacillation. So, and here they are, short journeys, has to do with the third house of astrology. Siblings and relationships, of course. Well, that's the Geminis, and we're going to see this in the gospel. Indecision and communication. Now, I'm really just picking the choice bits here because I've got the whole thing to go through. So it's probably going to take about a half an hour, and I want to discuss many, many other themes. I don't want to just discuss the Gospel of Mark, showing that Mark starts in Aries with the baptism and Pisces with the death. Okay, the sign of the cross. So Gemini, there are a few details in the story which underline its Geminian theme. The word for the storm used by Mark is Laelaps, but Laelaps is also the name of the hound of Actaeon in Greek mythology, a name associated with the constellation Canis Major, one of the deacons of Gemini. Right? So Jesus tells the storm to cease with the word Siopa, be quiet, echoing the Spartan name for Gemini, Tosio, and the cushion upon which Jesus' head was resting along, believed to be a detail provided by Peter, echoes the headgear of the Geminian twins, or the flames of fire which were supposed to issue from their heads. So that's basically the themes of those chapters, dealing with these extrazodiacal signs. There's Gemini there, Canis Major, Canis Minor, and Lepus, the hare, which is what the fourth chapter of Mark deals with. Okay. There's also the incident of the legion, who says, "My name is Legion, and for we are many." That has to do with the the duality aspect of Geminians, okay? Let's see if there are some other points in Gemini, some good points that I want to... Okay, well, let's go to this miracle of the Jairus and the woman with the blood flow. So after he put them out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha Kumi, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk, and she was 12 years old. At this they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to tell anyone about this and told them to give us something to eat. Well, this incident happened immediately after Jesus was touched by a woman who had a flow of blood which was for 12 years. So Jairus' daughter was 12 years old, and the other incident immediately before that had to do with 12 years, indicating a twin parable. Okay? The most obviously Geminian feature of the story of Jairus' daughter is the way in which it is told. It is the only miracle story in the Gospels which combines two quite separate elements. Neiman writes, what we have here is without precise parallel in the Gospel, an incident broken into by another incident which takes place in the middle of it. Right? In addition, however, we should consider the name Jairus, which means appropriately Jehovah enlightens, but which also bears more than a passing resemblance to the name of the brightest star in the night sky, Sirius, the dog star, which is found in Canis Major, right? That's where Sirius is, in the dog star. One of the Geminian deacons, and whose name means the chief one, the leader. Jairus, we are told, the leader or ruler of the synagogue. And as Ptolemy reminds us, the heliacal rising of Sirius at the summer solstice presaged the beginning of the Egyptian New Year and the flooding of the Nile, thus connecting this star with the constantly menstruating woman. In addition to being a possible zodiacal reference, Mark's double use of the number 12 provides us with further evidence that we are meant to link the two females, and that this double story is not just a narrative accident. The woman with the blood flow, has been sick for 12 years. The little girl is 12 years old. The contrast between the girl and the older woman reflects two of the deacons of Gemini, Canis Major and Canis Minor. Okay, and there's also the mention of Sodom and Gomorrah, the twin cities, in Mark 6:11. Okay? Now, I have to apologise because this is sort of a little bit dull and boring because it's real nitty-gritty names of stars and everything like this. And this guy's done a lot of homework, and it's a beautiful, exquisite book the way he's put it together. And he's mixed astrology with astronomy, with astrotheology, and beautiful metaphysical themes. It's just such a rich book. I wish I could just spend the whole, 4 hours on this, but I have to fly through it. In fact, I'm just going to really fly through because we've only done three of those signs, okay? But there's some real, there's some real obvious ones. Cancer is themes of nurture, the motherliness of the Cancer sign with the moon in it, food and stomach concerns, etc. Well, that's all in there. The boat is in Cancer, the boat Argo. So Argo is the ship that is up here, you see, and that is, according to the Venerable Bede, that is the Ark of Noah. And interesting that two deacons of Gemini are Canis Major and Canis Minor. The two deacons of Cancer are Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. And Noah, in his boat on top of Mount Ararat, brought in animals 2 of 2. The only place where 2 ofs occur in the whole